Hey everybody, Vasky here. Welcome to the end of 2015. It is currently the 31st of December, actually, when I had the brilliant idea of recording this video. This is a review of all that's happened in Botania throughout the year, and actually quite a lot has happened. As, of course, this is the end of the year, and I'm actually recording this on a very tight schedule, so I won't be able to have any fancy animations or stuff on screen. But hopefully the content is good enough. Alright, so we start off the year with build 149 in January. It's nothing really crazy, just a fixed build. But the highlights of January include build 152, which includes the Black Lotus, Mana Prism, Trodden Dirt, and the Progress Pies we all love for the Botanical Brewery and the Mana Enchanter. Of course, we lead off the January with build 154, probably one of the biggest builds Botania has seen. This includes the achievements in Botania, and a new flower such as the Spectranthemum, the Medimum, the Metamorphosis, the Nurslimus, and the Spectrolus. It also adds a bunch of new brews in the form of the Complex Brews system, the second Gaia Guardian, including the Ancient Wills that come with it, armor set bonuses, crafting patterns that make the crafting crate a lot easier, it changes the recipe for Elementium tools, adds storage blocks for Mana Diamond and Dragonstone, adds Overgrowth Seeds, Spellbinding Cloth, Rinse Clips, Mana Seer Monocles, rods like the Rod of the Depths and the Rod of the Molten Core, the Torn Chakram, the World Seed, and a bunch of other tweaks like the Mana Tablets rendering on the player's belt, and tools having right-click abilities. Oh, and of course, you can rename your tiny potatoes after this build, which is obviously the best feature. January has a total of 5 builds, which is not great compared to most months in 2015, but it's a start, especially because it's seen one of the biggest builds ever. Move on to February, that starts off with build 155, introducing the Thermo Lily cooldown system, which everybody hated, and I think they still hate, but that's fine. Moving on to 158, introduced the Metal Lens Warp, one of the coolest features in the mod that's being used quite a lot to create things like quarries or farms all the time. Build 159 introduced Petal Blocks, which are still used for decoration but not that much. Build 160 introduced Ender Artifacts and the tutorial modes. It also introduced the Corporeus system and the Bottle of Ender Air for the Corporeus system. This build is also known as version 1.5 thanks to the introduction of the Corporeus system and the tutorial mode. Build 164 introduced Cosmetic Bauble Overrides, which we all love, introduced the Crystal and Living Wood Bow, Glowing Mushrooms to World Gen, Mana Infused String, and of course the Ring of Correction, which is something I think is quite underused, but hey, that's just... February had a total of 10 builds, including the major build 160 aka R1.5. Move on to March, which started at 166, including NEI support by Tonius of Simply Jetpacks. Also, it added the ability for Mana Spreaders to be sleeved with wool, which is pretty cool. In 167, we got the View Online button in the Legacy of Botania, which not many people use, but it's there, it's useful. In 169, we got the big flower buff of 2015, where pretty much every generating flower had a buff in production. For this version, I polled on Reddit what people thought wasn't that good, and then decided to create a big mathematical page with all the information, all the flowers, figuring out a way to buff them, and pretty much every single flower got buffed. Furthermore, the Legacy of Botania also got the options button in the main page. Move on to 117, we got the Mana Pump and Minecart with Mana Pool, which is used for long-range mana transport. We also got the Phantom Ink for dyeing our armor off, and the Flower Pouch for storing our flowers. Also the Horn of the Covering, but nobody uses that. In 171, we got Double Tile Flowers, the Pinkinator, and the ability to change the textures of floating flowers using pasture seeds. Of course, the Pinkinator is the biggest feature in this update. This brings us to a total of 6 builds throughout March. April starts off with build 173, aka the April Fool's update. This update added all sorts of promised features, like an Alfheim Dimension, the ability to convert RF to mana, and plenty others. Wait, no it didn't, that was just April Fool's. What this build actually added was the Dice of Fate and the Relic system tied to the Gaia Guardian 2, and added the ability to see the range, of course, of various flowers using the Mana Seer Monocle, added the Black Hole Talisman, the Resolute Ivy, and the ability to dye all sorts of things using flower powder. To this day, a lot of people still use the Mana Seer Monocle radius viewing system, so that's probably one of the biggest features in this update. The Relic system, of course. 174 added the achievement button in the Lexica Botania main page, which is soon to be added next to the challenge button, which isn't there for this version yet. 175 added the 1.8 stones, the Sunny Quartz, and the Soul Magnolia. Of course, it also added the great battle music for the Gaia Guardian, composed by Kane Vinisek, and of course the records for that as well. 178 added the Blaze Light, NEI support for the Pure Daisy, and better wildcard system for the Corporea Index. There's also new recipes for the Pure Daisy, such as being able to turn, netherrack into stone, or soul sand into sand. And it also honored a recipe for mossy stone. Build 181 added the Corporea Interceptor, which increased the amount of things you could possibly do using Corporea by quite a lot. And Build 182 added the ability to shrink flowers to lower their sizes, as well as Phantom Ink to hide bubbles. Build 183 added variants to the Petal Apothecary, using Metamorphic Stone created using the Metamorphosis, and a mana bar for the Terra Shatterer's Tooltip. This brings us to a total of 11 builds in April, including Major Build 1.6, version 1.6, Build 173. Moving on to May, we have 185 as the first build. That build included the Corporea Crystal Cube, which allows you to remotely request features from Corporea with a single click, like you do with a barrel. It includes the Orchid Ignum, better Ring of Loki systems, and the ability to rotate items in the Corporea funnel to change how many are pulled. Build 188 added the Stone of Temperance, which allows you to modify how large your Terra Shatterer is, and it added the ability to revert the Ring of the Aesir to its base component. In Build 189 we had the addition of Incense, we had a Terra Truncator, and the ability to right-click a Petal Apothecary or Runic Altar with an empty hand after you complete a recipe in order to be able to add the recipe back. Obviously one of the best quality of life features in the month. Build 189 saw the addition of the Welcome to Botania entry, originally written by Gideon Seymour, and the Hovering Hourglass. In May we had a total of 6 builds, not as many as in April, but still 6 builds, including quite some important features. June started off with Build 192, including the Spectral Rail, which adds very fancy abilities for minecarts. Build 193 added the new recipe for the portals, and for mana petals, allowing for you to get started and set up faster. Terra Steel nuggets and nuggets for also metals have also been added, in order to be used for the recipe for the mana portal. It also added a Drum of the Canopy, which is used to clear out massive areas of vegetation in form of leaves. Something that's not very used too much, but again, it wasn't my addition, so blame the White Wolves for that one. Build 194 introduced damage cap to the Gaia Guardian, which was currently at 35. Actually, it did not. It changed the damage cap. It usually was at 12, but it was changed to 35 now, because you can prepare yourself using strength potions and the like, so you need to be prepared in order to fight it. Build 195 introduced the multi-block preview system, something that a lot of people really like, the ability to preview a multi-block in the Lexica Botania and be told where to put it and how to put it. This is used for pretty much every multi-block in Botania, like the Mana Enchanter or the Elven Portal. It also introduced the Spark Tinkerer, which allows you to modify which spark is in a pool using a redstone signal. It also introduced Tab autocomplete for the Corporea Index, thanks to Sound Logic. This feature allows you to press Tab while you're writing something to a Corporea Index, and have its name auto-completed. Build 196 added the challenge system, so everyone can now go and have fun with their challenges. This brings us to a total of 5 builds for June. July starts off with Build 198, but the big build of July is of course 199, aka R1.7 Garden of Glass. Garden of Glass, I'm sure everyone knows what it is, but if you don't, it is a skyblock mode for Botania. It is optional and it comes as a separate mod package. It also included Ender Bricks, aka the Purpur in 1.9, and added the Cocoon of Caprice and other platforms having the ability to have chisel blocks or other somewhat non-solid components. Build 202 added luminizers, as well as a detector luminizer and a luminizer launcher. All of the stuff you'd expect from luminizers was pretty much added in this build. Build 203 added walls, so you can now make walls out of the most Botania stones, and a buff to the Torn Chakram because it wasn't all that good. Build 204 changed the way flowers are bound to have a system where they keep the positions rather than trying to bind if a spreader is removed. To that, it also added an indicator to their interfaces and the floor of obedience stick. And added the cacophonium, which everybody loves. Build 205 added the Brew of Absolution, so you can remove your effects. It added a note system to the Lexica Botania, so you can keep note of everything that's going on. The Mana Storm charge, which is amazing, so you can blow stuff up. It added the system to be able to get your Lexica Botania back in Garland of Glass, if you happen to lose it. And it added the fuel cap to the End of Flames, thanks to Direwolf 20 having the great idea of abusing them with Eternalist fuel. That, I believe... No, it doesn't. That's one more. There's one more. There's Build 208, which included alchemy recipes for vanilla flowers, a better system for the Black Hole Talisman, and metadata ignoring for the Hopper Hawk if it's trying to find an item that uses metadata, such as swords or pickaxes. That finishes off July with a total of 10 builds. Moving on to August. August starts with Build 208, where the Excalibur was removed and replaced with the Key of the King's Law. It also added the recipe for cobwebs and relic knowledge, which includes documentation for all of the relics instead of some weird poems in their totems. Farmcraft runic shielding was also implemented for Botania Arbor and Baubles, and the slime in a bottle was added if you want to know where slime chunks are. For fighting, we also had the Star Caller, a sword that comes up with stars from the sky. This version also had the ability to have passives die and turn into dead bushes, rather than just disappear completely. The Flugo Tiara's flight was also limited to 30 seconds, which was originally 10 seconds, but was then later added and changed to 30 seconds. In this version, the Gaia Guardian is also scaled for multiple players, so you can just curb stomp it for when you have multiple players on the battle. The fight also changes if you have more than one player, and you get more rewards the more people that fight it. Build 210 added the ability to dash and glide for the Flugo Tiara, which worked as a counterbalance to what happened in 209, adding a limit. It also added the ability for the Hopper Hawks to be able to find items in all 6 sides, rather than just the 4 cardinal directions. Build 211 added a Grass Conjuration recipe, and the Rod of the Shifting Crust, which acts kinda like the Wand of Equal Trade from Farmcraft with a few extra tweaks. Build 212 added a Greater Ring of Magnetization for those of you who want a bigger range, and Build 213 added the best feature of the year, the Cacophonium block. You can't argue with that one, it's the best feature of the year. Build 214 added 1.8 banner support if Et Futurum is installed. This adds a bunch of banner patterns, including the Botania logo, all the tools, and of course a tiny potato face. There's an entry in the Lexica Botania, which allows you to find out all of these. Build 215 added a few new weapons in the form of the Flar Chakram and the Thunderclaw. It also added the ability for you to reverse slab recipes into normal sizes. And for iron ingots, diamonds, and ender pearls, they come back from the portal if you forget to infuse them with mana, which a lot of people do. Build 216 added Mana Weave and Mana Tide Bellows. Of course, Mana Weave came with the Mana Weave armor, which included the ability for you to have more power on your rods. Mana Tide Bellows allow for mana pools to transfer mana faster, which is great if you want to power off a Terra Shatterer. And it also added the ability for Bifrost blocks to be craftable and not destroyed after a while using the Rod of the Bifrost. Build 218 added the ability for the Mana Blaster to be faster if used while having haste. It's not something a lot of people do, but it can come in very handy if you're trying to light up big areas using a flash lens. This brings us to a total of 9 builds for August. September started off with Build 219, which includes microblock support for Forge Multipart. This pretty much adds every Botania block as a multi-block you can use. It added Portuguese Pavement, which fits in very nicely with the multi-block system, and it added the Manufactory Halo, which allows you to craft items very quickly on the fly. Build 220 added the Dandelion, which is still being tweaked and not final. It also added the feature where you can hold a one of the forest and bind it to something and see its range if you have a Manaseer Monocle. Furthermore, Build 220 also allows Womanizers to move items around. Build 224 added more achievements, a Gaia Guardian head, a Red Stringed Interceptor, which allows you to intercept when a block is right-clicked, and the ability for overgrowth seeds to allow for flowers not to decay. This brings us to a total of 4 builds on September. Of course, you have to remember that September's last build also has to do change earlier this year, where the configuration option for flower decay has been removed, which caused a massive amount of uproar, and it's still going on. Going on to October, we have build 224 starting off with motif flowers, aka passive flowers, just for decoration that don't generate any mana. The Mana Seer Monocle can now also see the level of some redstone features. Grass panes have been added from Mana Glass, Off Glass, and the Bifrost blocks. Also added the Corporeal Retainer, which allows for even better corporeal automation. The Terra Bozu, which allows for you to take off the raid or bring in rain if you want. There's a better Corporeal Crystal Cube Renderer and the ability for it to be used in with a comparator. That allows you to see better what's going on and allows you to automate Corporeal even better by being able to tell how much exists in the system. Mana Seer Monocle has also been made as an override, which you can have on any bubble and it still maintains its uses. Build 225 added Shimmerrock and Shimmerwood planks, which are colorful planks you can make using the Rod of the Bifrost. It also added the Rafflesia, a flower that lets you eat other passive flowers, because I'm funny like that. And you can also, as of build 225, you can dye flowers, any of the Botania flowers, such dayblooms, Breer daisies, etc., using floral powder. Build 227 saw a big redesign of the Lexica Botania, with a redesign of how the main page looked with some fancy new effects, the ability to quickly look up what something is by pressing Shift on a category entry, and the ability to have a quick opening of an entry by pressing Control on your inventory while you have Lexica Botania on your hotbar. It also added mana bars for tablet, rings, and mirrors, similarly to what you have for the Terra Shatterer. It added the Living Wood Avatar, which allows for world features of rods, such as Rod of the Bifrost, Rod of the Health, so on. It added the Primus Loci, which allows you to have generating flowers that don't despawn, if you are lucky enough to find them. Moving on to November, before that, we have 5 builds in October. Moving on to November, starting off with build 229, we have the World Shaper Sextant, which allows you to create very simple circles using the multi-block system in Botania. Build 231 added the new armor models that we have made, which everyone liked, and they look pretty cool. Build 231 added an interface to the Crafty Crate's HUD, which allows you to see better what's going on when you want to create things. Build 232 added the ability to have more info in the F3 menu by pressing Ctrl Shift. It also added the ability to throw an Ender Pearl to a Luminizer to teleport you all the way to the end of the chain. You can also add Phantom Ink to an item that has it to remove it. Build 234 added some new lenses in the form of the Redirectory lens, the Celebratory lens, and the Flare lens. Respectively, these allow mana spreaders to change where they're looking at. It fires fireworks, and Flare lens can make particle beams. It also added decorative grass and pasture seed variants, 6 of them in fact, and you can use to modify the way your areas look. For example, there's the vibrant grass one that a lot of people like. Minecraft grass is not very green, sadly. Build 235 changed the way the arena for the Gaia Guardian looks, and it's now circular and has a display if you fail it. Build 236 added the Bubble Case, which allows you to store all your bubbles and mana-containing items in one simple inventory. It also added the Planestrider Sash, a new belt item, which lets you move faster the more you walk. Furthermore, glimmering flowers have also got updated textures. This brings us to a total of 8 builds throughout November. And to finish off the year, December, we start off with build 238. In my opinion, the biggest build of the year, also known as build 1.8 or 1.8, or Minecraft 1.7 doesn't update to 1.8. This build, the entirety of this build actually is focused towards making the mod better for new players and less annoying. It includes a lot of major changes, or minor changes depending on your point of view, such as diluted mana pools not being required in progression, mana paddles being removed in order to simplify crafting recipes, your days being made faster, and all sorts of other things that are usually kind of messy being made better in the mod. This makes the mod easier to pick up and just easier to play altogether without removing what makes it cool, that is, the automation prospect. Build 243 added NEI integration for Lexica Botania, where you can see which entries in Lexica Botania have which items. So if you're looking up on NEI a mana pool, you will be taken to the mana pool entry in Lexica Botania if you want to. Build 244 added the preventing decay entry under miscellaneous, which tells you how to prevent decay. Build 245 added a very fancy Garden of Glass skybox, which you can enable for normal play if you want to. It also added Christmas features for the Mana Weave cloth, turning it into Santa Weave. Build 246 added NEI integration for Corporea. So if you're near a Corporea index, you can press C in your inventory or NEI plate to request it from your Corporea system. The Soul of Gnovia is also being made free, and the Gaia Guardian fight is now fancier, and the Phase 3 of the version 2 is no longer insane. The last build of 2015 was build 247, the very last build of the year, added delay modulation, the ability to place puzzle or mycelium under a flower to make it take longer to pick up items. It's very useful for automation if you want something to happen after another. And also added the ability for you to search the Lexica Botania via the names of the items. So for example, if you want to search for Mana Pump in Lexica Botania, you will be taken to the Mana on Rails entry, even though the Mana on Rails entry does not contain Mana Pump in its name. This brings us to a total of 9 builds for December. And that's it for 2015. We had a total of 95 builds throughout the year, and this brings to an average of 1 build every 3.8 days. Not bad, huh? There you go. That's 2015 for you guys. A lot of things have been added, and hopefully in 2016 we can continue on this rate of quality and quantity. I'm not sure, I hope so. There is a 1.8 fork in works by Willy Willis. I will merge that into Botania itself once I'm ready to, but of course I still want to play 1.8 a bit before I do that, because we have a Patreon server going up with 1.7 features, so I don't want to move on to 1.8 yet until I have had a proper chance to play 1.7. But if you want to play 1.8, I do believe there is a version of Botania for 1.8 on the Botania subreddit, r/Botania. I can't guarantee if it's stable at all. I'm not looking at it, I'm not working on it, but it's there if you want to check it out. Alright guys, that's been 2015. Happy New Year. Hope you're still enjoying Botania, and hope you will continue to enjoy Botania in 2016. Bye.